On today's edition of the Ango Show, Christmas edition, we got some big news surrounding AEW's new TV deal, plus the talks between them and Fox have fallen apart, and we're going to talk about a surprising release WWE superstar who could find their way back into the company. Merry Christmas, everybody. It's your boy Ango. We're going to kick things off with Mustafa Ali. He just had an incredible interview that dropped with Chris Van Fleet on Insight. He was speaking about his relationship with WWE now that he's no longer with the company, and he actually spoke about these relations being good. He says, I think there's multiple paths. Yeah, that's obviously in regards to him returning to the company. He says, and the thing is, there's good relations there. The thing with them moving to Netflix is very, very interesting because it just opens things. I don't know how much of the show is going to do. The show is going to change as far as dynamic, as far as rating, as far as what they're okay with. Very interesting stuff being said by Mustafa Ali, but I actually didn't know whether his relationship with WWE would have been a positive one. And he spoke pretty highly about the WWE, especially like under the Triple H regime. But obviously it's no secret at one point Mustafa Ali wanted out of the company when Vince McMahon was running it. We saw Mustafa Ali go to TNA. We didn't see him go to AEW, which was incredibly shocking to me. But we saw him do some stuff with New Japan. We saw him do some stuff with TNA. And the gimmick that he did in TNA was essentially a branch of what he wanted to do in WWE. And as you guys know, WWE at one point was actually going to do the gimmick for Mustafa Ali on WWE television, but there was some concerns with the TV networks, Fox, USA Network, that type of thing. So it is interesting hearing Mustafa Ali bring up Netflix, because with WWE being on Netflix, yes, they are still remaining PG, but they are able to get away a little bit more on Netflix than it is regular TV, because there is just a different rule set, I guess. And the thing that's really cool about Mustafa Ali is when he jumped to TNA, he really showed us some of the really good strengths of this character, which I feel like if WWE wants to kind of be a little bit edgier without entirely crossing the line, then you could bring him back into the mid card, immediately upper mid card on WWE Raw on Netflix. Let him go after the Intercontinental Championship. Like, let him have some very strong reign with that belt, because then here's the thing. You know, we've heard talks in the past of WWE wanting to put the World Championship on him, and they obviously never did that. And obviously there's a plethora of guys who are already kind of in the mix for the belt, but you can have him build up the mid card or be a great strength to the mid card until his time is ready. And honestly, like, there's a ton of matchups, right? Like him and Braun Breaker would be great, but then also you have to consider Penta's coming into Raw. You know, maybe you could even do something there. So obviously a lot of opportunity. I was a little bit shocked to hear that his relations with WWE is good and that there is a path back. I can only hope for the best. And that brings us to our second topic of today's video. Talks between AEW and Fox may have fallen apart. We know that Rampage is done with. Now there's obviously been a lot of rumors about Shockwave becoming a new thing for AEW. Meltzer says no time soon. Obviously there was talks with Fox and AEW, but AEW's numbers fell, and that was a key. If their numbers had stayed stronger, then he believes that they would have had a better shot of getting on Fox, because there are several nights a week where AEW's show where they could do a show on Fox, basically. And basically what ends up happening is, as of now, the talks haven't continued. Now, that doesn't mean AEW won't get another TV deal for Shockwave. It doesn't even mean necessarily that AEW and Fox is completely dead in the water, but it just means that as of right now, talks have not progressed between the two companies. And honestly, for those AEW tribalists who love talking about ratings and love talking about numbers, and they love defending absolutely everything that AEW does, hopefully this is a little bit of a lesson to understand that, hey, while AEW can still do cool stuff on TV, it clearly isn't enough to attract such a major television partner. Now, this is not a knock towards AEW, because AEW has a fantastic relationship with Warner Bros. Discovery, but of course, AEW and Fox would also be a massive deal, regardless if it's Fox Sports 1 or if it's, you know, any of their other networks, or maybe even Tubi. Like, anything that could have been a relationship building between the two companies could have been really good for them long term. And obviously Dave Meltzer, you know, as much as I don't tend to agree with Dave Meltzer on things like this, Dave Meltzer, when it comes to reporting stuff on AEW and their television deals and their business relationships, it seems like his relationship with Tony Khan seems to be pretty safe in the sense that we could probably agree that it's likely. I don't think Dave has a high accuracy rate with WWE news, but I do believe when it comes to AEW, he does have such a formidable relationship with that company where I think this could be a little bit more believable than some of his other reports. As far as AEW and Fox goes, I would love to see that happen. You know, I do. It's not even about the creative of the product. I just love seeing a healthy wrestling industry. And if Fox still desires professional wrestling, even outside of having SmackDown no longer with them, that's a great sign, because I think a lot of wrestling fans tend to forget that television networks don't necessarily care about professional wrestling, and that is starting to change. And thankfully, WWE and AEW are proof of that. And one last thing I will admit too that makes me excited is that when you see Fox and AEW are having talks after SmackDown leaving Fox, you just have to wonder what's at stake for some of the smaller companies, right? TNA, MLW, NWA, right? Like their shows that kind of shows that maybe there's some potential for some of these smaller companies to even potentially get a TV deal, which would be incredibly nice. And that brings us to our final story. AEW and ITV Sports have extended their TV deal, and this is really cool. I know there is some negativity that has been said on social media, but I will break down why I believe this is a good thing for AEW. So for those who don't know, AEW currently airs on ITV in the UK, and AEW, I mean, basically since the inception of AEW, they've had this relationship with ITV. Now, I obviously don't live in the UK, so I can't personally give you guys my own experience on this, but from what I've heard, ITV is completely free in the UK. AEW Dynamite airs, I think I want to say on Saturday night, so it is a couple days after, but they air on Saturday nights for Dynamite, and then Collision airs the following Wednesday, which obviously that is a negative aspect of it, because that means it's not live, you know, at the same time every week. But this is a relationship that AEW has built since the very beginning, and those kind of relationships are incredibly important and incredibly valuable, and it is to no cost for those in the UK. Now, if you guys are somebody that lives in the UK, perhaps your experience could be a little bit different, and maybe you could share your thoughts in the comment section. But you know, for AEW having a TV deal in the UK where everybody can essentially access it and it's free, I think that is amazing. And I think that it's a very good thing for AEW's potential expansion globally, which obviously, you know, AEW just this year did, you know, they did Wembley this year, they did Wembley last year, but they finally brought Dynamite and Collision to the UK. So that's obviously very cool. Richard Botchway, who is a commissioning editor at ITV, he says that we are proud to continue to be the UK free to air broadcast partner for AEW. We're looking forward to continuing our relationship into 2025, bringing the UK audience every minute of action across ITV and ITVX. So if you guys are somebody who watches it, you guys could let me know your personal experience. I'm sure that a lot of people probably wouldn't be happy about the fact that it is delayed, but the fact that it is free, I think, is a big win. I don't know how it works with AEW being on the Max streaming service, because I don't know if the Max streaming service is available globally, but I do know, obviously, for us in the US, like, them being on TNT and TBS is cool, but for those who don't want cable and you just strictly want streaming, it is a benefit of just signing up for the Max streaming service. I don't know if there's a way for the UK audience to work around the delay. So there's obviously pros and cons, but the good thing is good relationships matter. Being free and accessible is very, very key. And I'm not saying this to just defend AEW or whatever, but I think when you look at the UK expansion and you look at like what that market is for professional wrestling companies, I think it's a very significant and a very big one. And TNA has had a lot of success in the past in the UK. And obviously with AEW, you would like to see the same thing. As far as how much money this is worth or what kind of value there is there's no numbers that have been reported, but I'm going to assume there is a little bit of money there for AEW, which is always a good thing. And I'm going to assume for AEW, when it comes to going back to the UK, I would like to assume that they will find even more success with a strong partnership like this. So obviously, very good news for AEW. And yeah. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys watching. Merry Christmas to all those who celebrate We'll keep the content rolling, getting ready for a big year of 2025. If you guys support me, go ahead and click subscribe and drop a comment down below. Peace.